Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
I want to talk to you today, before we talk to Sendog of Cypress Hill in our Punk Rock Politics interview series. I want to talk to you today about your most precious resource. You can't purchase any more of it. You can't save it. You can't stock it up. You can't invest in it, get more of it, watch your returns, come back, but you can lose it like you wouldn't believe. And you don't want to lose it. I'm talking about your time. And I'm guessing that you figured that out from the moment I started talking. Your time is a precious, valuable thing. It's the one thing you can't get more of. You can't buy more of it. You can't do anything about the fact that it's going to run out, and you can't control when it runs out. Your time is short. Life is short. This miracle of life, this miracle of walking, living, breathing on this planet is a finite thing. And you don't know when it's going to run out. You don't know when it's going to be taken from you. And it's a tough thing to face down. There's all sorts of different pieces of advice that you're expected to live by that are in direct conflict, and you hear them from the moment that you're born. Got to think about your future. Got to live in the now. All of the above is true. However, the one thing that you can't get around, I heard Kid Rock use this expression once when it came to him being asked about what it was like to be a grandfather. Does it hurt his image that he's a grandfather now and he's up on stage singing Ba with the Ba? And he was like, nope, I'm happy. I go with it. I think it gives me redneck credibility. And the one thing I've learned is you can't box with God. No one's arms are long enough. So you have to accept the passage of time because there's literally nothing you can do about it. But your time is precious. And yeah, you got to work. You got to do a job. You got to put a roof over your head. You got to put food on the table. You got to put clothes on backs. And all that is part of trading your time for money. And it's something that is a necessity in this world. But there is time that is yours and yours alone. And I would urge you to consider how you spend it very, very carefully. People are putting untold hours of their lives, time that they will never get back, into the careers of politicians that do not know, do not appreciate, do not understand, that are so focused on themselves. This is at a local, federal, and national level. And I get it. Look, a lot of people want to campaign for the folks that they think are folks that hold answers or solutions. And I get that. And that's admirable and responsible and something that I appreciate. But there should come a cutoff point. There should come a cutoff point where you go, this time that I'm spending arguing with people about politics is time I'm never going to get back. This time that I'm letting who I'm going to vote for come between me and my friends, family, loved ones. Destroy precious time that I'm spending with the people that matter the most around the dinner table, over the weekends. You got to draw a line for yourself. You got to recognize that time is the most precious resource you have. You've got a limited number of hours on this earth, and you want to make the very most of absolutely every last one of them, especially those that are yours and yours alone. You trade your time for money every day of the week if you're lucky enough to be employed. But when you get to those hours of the day that belong to you, think wisely about how you're going to spend them. Think wisely about the memories you're going to make. Think wisely about how you can get the most value out of them. I'm not saying you have to do something high-minded and go off and climb mountains or do work for charity. It might just be sitting in front of the TV. Maybe you need that. Maybe you need that. I know I need it. Sometimes a weekend rolls around and all I want to do is lie face down on my living room carpet and watch the hours tick away as I watch something mindless on Netflix or lose myself in a baseball game. But consider very carefully how you're going to use your time. My favorite thing in life doesn't cost any money. It's really clear that the most precious resource we all have is time. Steve Jobs.
Always fair and mentally unbalanced. KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So, back to our conversation about time, your time, and how you spend it. If you get a chance, I think a great way to spend a little free time that you have is by looking into as much end-of-life stuff as you can. Have you heard the Warren Zevon album that he wrote? He knew he was terminally ill. He knew his time was running out. And what he wanted to do with his remaining time on Earth is leave his friends, family, fans, loved ones a gift, a love letter, and an album. And it is one of the most heart-wrenchingly beautiful things you have ever heard. Spend some time listening to Keep Me in Your Heart for a while. And it will radically change your perspective on what you're doing with your time on this planet. And it's not a happy thing to do, but examining what people do, especially writers, especially artists, especially musicians at the end of their life, just because they have this ability, the great ones, to put into words what we are feeling and can't externalize. It's an incredibly valuable thing. I don't know if you ever saw this, but before we move on, before we get into the events of today with super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhouser, before we interview Sendog in our Sendog of Cypress Hill in our punk rock politics interview segment, I want to give you a quote from Dr. Seuss to think about as you go off into your day that he wrote toward the end of his life. How did it get late so soon? It's night before it's afternoon. December is here before it's June. My goodness, how the time has flown. How did it get late so soon? Use your time wisely, my friend. Alrighty then, Funkhouser. What is going on in the world and how have you been? I feel like we haven't done news in a while.
Witness news. In no way, shape, or form fair and certainly not balanced. And now, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhouser. Barry Funkhouser.
Who?
Barry Funkhouser.
Oh, yeah.
Barry Funkhouser.
One last time for good luck.
The guy in the room is laughing at me next door. Flipped him off.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah. Well,
That's
he heard the
productive
big
use of your
old
time.
He heard the big old intro and laughed. What's it to you, buddy?
You know what? I think you should have fanfare everywhere you enter into a room.
Yeah, that
all
should
these
be my
interviews that we've been
ringtone.
doing, that should be your ringtone. I think that should happen every single time you walk into a room. Why? All the interviews that we've been doing as part of our Punk Rock Politics series, everybody from Monique from Save Ferris, Robert from Metallica, Sendog of Cypress Hill, who's calling in just a little bit. All of these interviews that we've been doing, all the work of super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhouser, who came up with the idea of Punk Rock Politics. Funkhouser, you've been earning the super part of your super producer title like a fiend of late, and we all thank you for it.
Thank you. This is your welcomes.
How you doing? Anything fun, new, interesting happening in your life?
You know, it's moving day. Well, not day, but I got to start doing that again. They
Why?
raised the rent in Pasadena, California. And
No kidding.
Now it's time. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Are you moving in with Canadian Jane full time?
It looks that way.
Big step.
Yes.
Big step, my friend.
Yes, I hope so.
When you don't get along, even though you've been mostly living together, when you don't get along, there's no place to hide anymore.
Yeah, that's the fear. That's the fear right now. We'll see what happens.
Have you and Canadian Jane gotten into like real fights? I mean, you've been together for a long time now, so you must have had at least one big disagreement.
I mean, we've had discussions, and we agree to disagree sometimes, but nothing that would come to blows, I guess.
Well, not blows. It would be horrible, but, screaming,
There's
yelling.
No war of
Why
the
do you do
roses.
this? Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. That's good. I mean, like, really, I would imagine that if that sort of thing was going to happen, it would have happened by now. So if heated debate and agree to disagree was the worst it's ever gotten, seems like you're onto a good one. They say that the high times, the low times, and all the times in between are the test of a relationship. Do you, when you're happy for her and she's happy for you, how does that go? Do you guys celebrate together?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's good. That's good, because this is one thing I read a little while ago. In a relationship, a lot of people think, well, when things go badly, I want someone to, pat me on the back and go, oh, poor sweet baby, and commiserate with me and be a shoulder to cry on and give me a hug and all that sort of stuff. And that is important, but equally, if not more important in a relationship, I have heard, is do you celebrate together? When one of you has a win, is there high-fiving and, yeah, you did it, way to go? Like when you get these little wins in life, apparently it's just as important to celebrate, if not more important to celebrate, than it is to commiserate when things are going lousy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's a well-rounded relationship. I suggest everyone has one of those. And if anything's
Canadian?
a little... yeah. Not only are they our pretty hat, America's pretty hat, they also, they're pretty good.
Canada, oh, Canada, oh, Canada.
There you go. Very good. Very good. Well, I'm glad to hear things are going tickety-boo for the Funkmeister. What's going on in the world?
Let's all cross our fingers that we don't get the flu, because it's starting to be flu season.
Did you get a flu shot?
No. Aren't you... are you supposed to do that when you're, in your 30s? I thought it was...
I don't know. I heard that everybody's supposed to get a flu shot. Apparently it does, wonders for insurance premiums and things like that. It's a preventative measure. And I got a flu shot once. And it was when I had to go visit someone's kid. They just had a baby, and they insisted everybody that goes to visit has a flu shot. Sickest I've ever gotten in my life. It was a big mistake. Never again.
Remembering to be scared of AIDS, man, those were the good old days. Now all these bands are streams, got dreams of getting paid, but they don't know how to rock a show, just dream of interweb fame. Real 101 Radio 104.1.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
As part of our Punk Rock Politics interview series, we're going to be talking to Sendog from Cypress Hill in just a little bit. Sendog from Cypress Hill, like a lot of musicians, has spent a good portion of the last 30 or so years on the road, experiencing every single corner of America that there is to experience and every single corner of the world that there is to experience. And I'm very curious to get his take on politics and why he believes what he believes. If you disagree with him, that's totally okay. But the point of this entire exercise is not to play gotcha. It's not to run anyone down for their beliefs. It is specifically to speak to people that might believe different things than us and get an understanding and a respect for how they got to be where they are. So we look forward to learning from Sendog of Cypress Hill in just a little bit. Right now, though, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser, what's going on in the world?
Well, a 60-year-old Alabama woman gave birth for the first time.
60 years old?
60.
Wow. That's a bit of a genetic anomaly. Means when the kid is 20, she'll be, if she's still alive, 80. I don't know. Well, I don't know. You know what the great thing about being a mom at that age is, though, right, Funkhauser? Do you know what it is?
No, tell me.
You don't have to lift your kids very high to breastfeed. Oh. Gross. What else?
There's a contest where you can win a chance to have pizza and beer with Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and Tom Brady.
Yeah, I saw this.
Where do I sign up?
On the surface of things, it sounds kind of cool. Like a lot of people think beer, good. Pizza, good. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, two really big actors. That could be interesting. And Tom Brady, one of the most well-known football players on the face of the planet. But here's the thing. It sounds great on paper, but it's not a situation you want to put yourself in. It's going to get very awkward, what with Matt and Ben constantly arguing about who gets to sit on Tom's lap. Go on.
The Backstreet Boys told a reporter the lyrics to their song I Want It That Way don't make sense.
Another thing that doesn't make any sense, the fact that it's 2016 and someone's interviewing the Backstreet Boys. Although,
hey, we got NSYNC a while ago.
Although I have to say that Backstreet Boys came out and did an appearance at our iHeart Festival a couple of weeks ago, and it set the internet on fire. It was for the 35 and for females 35 plus. It was a dropper of undergarments to be sure to see the Backstreet Boys get on stage. It is way more cachet than you'd think that the Backstreet Boys have. But I guess it makes sense. It's part of the nostalgia thing. It really is. You know who I'm surprised is all caught up in that nostalgia? I think Nelly. Nelly's on that tour with. Didn't you interview them like TLC and like?
Oh yeah.
Am I making this up?
No. Nelly, TLC, and Maya. And I can't think of the other one, but yeah. Oh, Bow Wow. Bow Wow's in it.
See, like Nelly, to me, I don't know why. But he doesn't seem like he's been around for as long as the rest of them. And he seems like the type of guy who is just as relevant today as he was yesterday. But maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I don't know why I don't lump Nelly in with the rest of those artists. I guess he came like 5, maybe 6-7 years later than the folks in TLC and Bow Wow and whatnot, but to me it doesn't make sense that he's a retro artist. I don't know. I have a problem with that one. Yeah. But Nelly doesn't. He's all about it. So there you go. He's all about the apple bottom jeans and the boots with the fur. Go on.
With the fur. Tommy Lee and Kendall Jenner's boyfriend, A$AP Rocky, both have birthdays today.
All right. And if you want to get him a gift, you can't go wrong with a lifetime supply of Valtrex. What else?
Kelly Ripa turned 46 today.
Yeah. Or, as Michael Strahan calls it, Tuesday. No one was able to get her the one thing she really wanted, a co-host she could actually get along with. Aww. Do you think she misses Regis? Do you think her and Regis were tight? Like, do you think they got along?
The things my thoughts I can't broadcast. I think...
oh, really?
Yeah. I think somebody used somebody until that somebody retired, and then, it's mine now! Ha ha ha!
Well, I mean, look, I don't know if that's really using someone. You get a gig, and you get a gig with a guy that's an octogenarian. How old is Regis now?
Old. It's like me going to work for Rush. I'm going like, hey, you're the best. Let's be here forever.
Well, I don't know. It makes sense. Like Regis, look, when you're 40 years older than your co-host, you can't possibly expect to be around as long as they are. And I don't think Regis wanted to go quietly into that good night. I think his retirement was something he was told he would be enjoying, as opposed to something he decided he would be enjoying. And Kelly Ripa was going to be the one left standing. And if there's resentment built into that, whatever. It's just like but it's not Kelly's fault that she's 40 years younger than Regis.
No, they just should change the name. That's let things end and let things start, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're having one of those relationship disagreements, aren't we?
Are we?
I think so.
I don't know. I mean, ultimately, it's Kelly Ripa and Regis Philbin. I don't actually, what's the word? Oh, yeah, care. But the thing is, I understand how it happened. I understand how all things happened on all sides. I understand why Regis is resentful. I also understand why Kelly is resentful of Michael Strahan bailing on her. And I also get why Michael Strahan did it. He found himself in a position where he was probably paid way, way less. He got offered way, way more money to do something else. And he went, hey, I went from being a really good football player to a really good broadcaster. I'm going to jump. I'll never forget when I was the action sports news guy at a station called Faction on Sirius XM. And that was like my bread and butter to talk about all things skateboarding and surfing and BMX related. And there was a pro BMX rider who was a bit of a media personality that made no bones about the fact he was resentful of me having that gig. It was something that he wanted to do, and he felt like it was owed to him, and he talked all manner of smack about me. And he was like, I don't get it, man. He's not like a pro rider or anything. And no, I'm not. But you know what I was? A professional broadcaster. And as long as you've been working at riding the BMX bike, I'd been working at being on the radio. So I get it. I understand exactly where his resentment comes from, but I also understand my right to be there and feel like I work just as hard at it for everyone else. So I get why Michael Strahan wanted to bail. I mean, Kelly Ripa probably feels like, I gave you your shot, and now you're abandoning me. Totally valid. But Michael Strahan went, you know what? I've been taking head trauma on the field playing football for a really long time. And it allowed me to get myself into an elevated position where I got a gig like the one working alongside you, which I was very grateful for. And now I want to move on and get paid because, I put in my time in other ways. So I understand how it all happens. But again, I don't really, what was that word? Care too much. And we've spent an awful lot of time on something I don't care about a whole lot. So let's move on.
It's been revealed that Wonder Woman is bisexual.
Now then, the things that I care about. In a related story, my childhood fantasies just got way more. I will be revisiting a lot of them. Wonder Woman's bisexual, you say? Interesting. Picturing. All right, then.
Makes sense.
You know what? Actually, I saw something written about this, and it made me think. The headline was, Wonder Woman is queer. And I've often wondered about this because, the LGBTQ, the Q in that, stands for queer. And to me, queer was always something that you did not say. You didn't say that person's queer because to me, it sounded like a derogatory thing. I thought it was horrible that we played a game called Smear the Queer growing up. That's not okay. And I've always wondered, A, what does queer really mean? And it might sound incredibly naive of me, but I've always wondered, what does queer mean exactly? And why is it not derogatory? Is it something that, people within the community can use freely, and maybe you and me shouldn't be using Funhouser? It's an interesting one. I don't know. I mean, I have no malice toward anybody when it comes to when it comes to their sexual preferences. When it comes to how they. I don't want to use verbiage that implies it's a choice here. But I've got, sexuality is not an issue to me, and never has been, never will be. And I'm very conscious of the fact that, hey, words have incredible power. Words have the ability to degrade and to hurt. And I've always steered away from using the word queer. But apparently it's okay. And I know this because I saw a headline that said, turns out Wonder Woman is queer. Is that what queer means? Is that a way of saying bisexual?
I guess so.
You want to look that up for me?
I guess so. Let me see. To Google.
To Google, yeah. Be a great time to break out that app. Let me Google that for you.
Well, it's an adjective. It means strange or odd. And it's a verb. It means spoil or ruin.
Well, strange or odd, this is the thing. What about in terminology where it applies to sexual preference?
I'm reading. This is a long one. An umbrella term sometimes used by the LGBTQA people to refer to the entire LGBT community. An alternative that some people use to queer the idea of the labels and categories such as lesbian, gay, bisexual, etc., similar to the concept of genderqueer.
So, queer is an all-encompassing umbrella term, and queer is an all-encompassing umbrella term as opposed to specifically meaning bisexual. Interesting. An alternative that some people use. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, it's an umbrella thing. So when you're saying LGBTQ, really all you need is the Q, and it encompasses all. Okay. Well, in that case, Wonder Woman is queer. And like I said, my childhood fantasies just got significantly hotter. Go on, what else?
A German police officer cited Arnold Schwarzenegger for unlawful cycling.
Yeah, apparently in Germany you're not allowed to simultaneously ride a bike and a Guatemalan nanny. Moving right along, what else?
Selena Gomez just became the first celebrity to reach 100 million followers on Instagram.
Happy to do our part, replied a spokesperson for the International Society of Creepy Middle-Aged Dudes. Oh, gross. Okay, go on.
A surgeon was able to reattach the tip of Lindsay Lohan's ring finger that she lost in a boating accident in Turkey.
You know, incredible presence of mind to retrieve the fingertip when it is lost in those situations. I mean, especially if, she's on a boat, maybe it fell into the water and almost became fish food. But, someone got it and it was reattached and she now has a reattachable fingertip. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you see the pictures?
No. Or were they gross?
I guess there are pictures online. Mm-hmm. TMZ scored a shot of the broken tip.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fortunately, I think the main takeaway here is that it was a ring finger, not her middle finger, so she can still communicate with her father.
Oh, thank goodness. Lady Gaga is doing the Super Bowl this halftime show. My friends are not happy.
Yeah, Lady Gaga doing the Super Bowl halftime show. The folks over at the NFL did extensive research into the favorite musical acts of the average NFL fan and then completely ignored it. Then she's going to do an amazing job. She's going to do an incredible job. Lady Gaga is a show person. Lady Gaga has been dreaming of doing this since day one. So it's funny, in the interview, she was like, I know exactly what I've been doing. I've been fantasizing about this for my entire life. So it's going to be an incredible show. Lady Gaga puts on incredible performances. That's what she does. So it will be a spectacle. You can guarantee that.
Yes.
What's the Trump expression? This I tell you, like what?
We already forgot. I can tell you this
I can promise
much.
you.
I can tell you this much.
No, see, like, you know what? I always I get him confused with Don Rickles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, Don Rickles' catchphrase.
Anyway,
no. Don Rickles is I tell you this. Like, that's what Don Rickles does. Like, he just wanders around the stage and goes, makes a joke and goes, I tell you this, and that's what the Trump thing reminds me of. It's like well, I mean, we know this expression very well in radio. It's the Donald Trump crutch. That much I promise you. Every time I try and remember what Donald Trump's verbal crutch is, I go to Don Rickles and go, I tell you this. I tell you this. We're talking to Zen Dog of Cypress Hill next.
Yeah, in two.
In two?
One more.
I tell you
this.
Next. If Lady Gaga is doing the Super Bowl halftime show, the only dead pig carcass will not be the one that's being tossed around the field.
But hey, I ain't impressed with this. She makes the dirty.com or maybe once or twice a guest list. Got no talent, but she wants to be on TV. She's a model and an actress, just some things you ain't ever seen.
Real radio.
104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
I tell you this, in a little bit we'll be talking to Zen Dog of Cypress Hill. What is it Donald Trump says? What's the thing?
I disavow, okay?
Not that.
No, not that. No, I don't know. One thing Donald Trump did say that the internet has jumped all over is Trump got in trouble the other day for making a comment about veterans who get PTSD when they come back from serving overseas. And I genuinely believe this was absolutely taken out of context. And if you want to go after the candidate on the opposing side, great. It's part and parcel of somebody running for president. If you're going to try and run them down and destroy them, great. But here's the thing. This was genuinely taken out of context, and I don't appreciate the way it's been taken out of context by people on the left, only because Donald Trump, love him or loathe him, was talking about something that is very, very important, and that is PTSD in our veterans. Now, a lot of people say this suggests that vets with PTSD are weak. I'm going to play it for you, Funhouser. You let me know if you think that he's saying people with PTSD are weak.
When you talk about the mental health problems, when people come back from war and combat and they see things that
maybe a lot of the folks in this room have seen many times over, and you're strong and you can handle it, but a lot of people can't handle it. And they see horror stories, they see events that you couldn't see in a movie, nobody would believe it. We are losing so many great people that can be taken care of if they have proper care. You know, when you hear the 22 suicides a day, it's a big part of your question, but when you hear the 22 suicides a day, that should never be. That should never be. So we're going to be addressing that very strongly, and the whole mental health issue is going to be a very important issue when I take over.
Now, here's the thing. Did you think he was saying people with PTSD are weak there, Funkhauser?
I didn't catch that.
He said some people who come back from war, quote, can't handle it. And you know what? That's the truth. Some people are just wired differently. They're cut from different cloth. They've seen different things. And to lump everybody into the same basket, everybody is an individual and everybody has individual experiences, and everybody's going to experience different levels of things that could cause PTSD when they come back home. And look, if you want to go after Trump for saying that John McCain wasn't, what did he say? I like guys that didn't get captured. John McCain was a prisoner of war and he went after him for being captured. If you want to go after him from that, yeah, absolutely. Be my guest. Donald Trump shoots from the hip. He doesn't write stuff down. And a byproduct of that is he's going to say some things that come out in an incredibly insensitive manner. And people are going to jump over that. And you know what? Well, they should. Because that's part and parcel of being elected. But I got a problem. I have a problem with people giving him a hard time for shining a light on a very real issue, whether he's president or not. He has a voice right now. He has a platform. And if he chooses to use that platform in a way that benefits our veterans, that benefits people that are in need of help and can't get it, benefits people that are all too often cast aside by the government and the country that they signed up to protect and serve, well then, I would really appreciate it if people picked a different battle, because we had some veterans come by the studio the other day and we talked about it on the show. But when these veterans came by from the VA, a couple of them worked for the VA, a couple of them were in treatment at a VA hospital. These guys have scars on the inside and the outside. And when they came by the studio to hang out with me and the puppy Millhouse, I asked them, I was like, what can we do? Like, what can we do? What can any of us do to help you in a way that you're not being helped right now? And they said, you have a platform, but everybody has a platform. Encourage people to destigmatize mental issues. I was talking to a lieutenant colonel who's in the treatment of the VA, a man who suffers from PTSD, a man who has served our country in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. And he said, we have to destigmatize mental issues. We have to make it okay for people to ask for help. And if Donald Trump is using a little bit of his airtime to say, hey, PTSD is a real problem, and if and when I'm elected, and people with PTSD that we're losing great people because of PTSD. They're homeless. 1 in every 3 homeless men that you see on the streets of America is a veteran. 22 suicides a day. We are losing people that have served and protected us and been willing to put their lives on the line so that we may enjoy our freedoms. And if he uses a moment of his time to draw attention to that, and it comes out in a way where if you're playing the gotcha game, which is such a problem, if he says something that's, there's other things that you can choose to run down, but not this. I don't think in any way, shape, or form he was suggesting that vets with PTSD are weak. He said people can't handle it. And look, that might not be the most sensitive way to phrase it, but this is a very real problem. The other thing that these vets that visited me asked me to do was to encourage you, if you are a vet or if you know a vet, to register for the VA. And here's why. And I've talked to vets that didn't know this. I didn't know this. And it's not really common knowledge, it would seem, based on my discussions after these vets visited me. But register for the VA. Why? Because when it comes time to fund the VA, that funding is based on the number of registered members that there are. And basically, there will be less money for vets if less vets are registered with the VA. So if you're a vet or if you know a vet, please encourage them to register. And if you know a vet, that is struggling with these issues, please, they have done so much for us. Let them know that there is no shame in asking for help. It is their constitutional right to have this help after they have served us. So, there we are. There we have it. If you want to play the gotcha game with politicians that you're trying desperately to keep out of the White House, your argument will be that much stronger if you pick an argument of principle. And if you want to go after Donald Trump for things, if you want to go after Donald Trump for shooting from the hip and not having a filter between his mind and his mouth, if you want to go after him for things that come out of his mouth that seem insensitive, that seem like they denigrate others, that seem like there's plenty of things that you can go after is what I'm getting at. This, I urge you to not make it one of them.
Viktor Frankl lived through Auschwitz, a concentration camp. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning Between Torture, Cold, and Damp. Viktor could have just given up and been resigned to his fate, but he used it to write a book that made the world a better place. Bethany Hamilton lost an arm surfing in a shark attack, and what she had to overcome was crazy in the aftermath. Nobody would have blamed her for taking a different path.
Real Radio. Real Radio. 104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
Sendog, thank you so much for being part of the show. Your boy, Renee from New York says hello.
Who doesn't that guy know?
Renee knows literally everyone. I'm from New York originally, and I saw you guys play in Houston at the Buzz when you were there for. I work at that station as well, and we had a little selfie moment which we sent to Renee because Renee literally knows everybody. He's like the mayor of the world.
Yeah. If you're in the music business, he knows you.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. Well, I want to thank you first and foremost, not only for taking some time to talk with us here today, but also, I have to say, seeing a Cypress Hill show when I was a kid in London changed the trajectory of my life. It was one of the most exciting things I have ever seen ever.
Wow, man, that's crazy. Thank you very much. You know, as performers, compliments like that mean everything. You know, to a person like me. Because I like to think I'm giving it my best effort. You know, the band is giving it our best effort to entertain the masses, that spend their money to come see us.
Not only that, but what was interesting was I've seen you several times. I saw you as a kid, and then a couple years ago, I saw you play with 311. I was like, that thing, whatever it was that made me go, oh my God, I love this band. I have to know as much as I can about them. I've got to get all their records and listen constantly. That thing that you had on stage still very much in effect all these years later. Why do you think that is? Because you know, hip hop artists' careers are notoriously short, yet you guys are still killing it many, many years later.
Yeah, I think it's just the thirst and the hunger to perform. I mean, it's a thrill that unlike, few that I've experienced in my life. And, to still do it and still be good. To still do it is one thing. To still be good at it, is another thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like we're better lives now than we were years ago, which is kind of crazy to say, but just the love for hip hop and the love for Cypress and what we do and what we've built, and it's not willing to let it go, man. It's there's only one Cypress Hill in the world, and I'm part of it, and as long as we have good health and people still accept us, as a real band and something concrete, then we're gonna still bring it. You know what I mean?
Seeing you, it was still absolutely as real to you guys on stage now as it was when you were first starting out. You started in 1991, and you can feel that intensity. You can feel what's real coming from the stage, and it makes a huge difference that it's real to you guys.
Oh yeah, it's definitely real, man. A lot of the material that that we rap about, a lot of that stuff, we actually lived through, survived through, and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And definitely, it's definitely coming from, from the soul and from the heart. When we set up to do our thing, we want the the audience, the people that came to listen and watch, we want them to feel like, man, Cypress Hill was one of the best bands of the night.
Mm.
You know, and we put our, you know, our heart and soul into making sure that, you know, that we rock the stage.
Yeah, no, you really do. Let me ask you this. If you had to pick one record or one musical performance that maybe you saw, or maybe you saw something on TV, or whatever it was that really reached you in a very real way, something musical that made you go, this is it. This is what I have to do with my life. One artist, one performer, one show, one record, whatever it was, what do you think that would have been? What bit you?
That was I was in 12th grade, and I still remember this because it's a moment that changed me. Saturday afternoon, man, went and got me like a 40 ounce, and and I went home to watch Soul Train, man, not knowing who was on it, but this band called Run DMC was on it.
Oh.
I had heard hip hop before, you know, Curtis Blow and, you know, a bunch of New York stuff, you know, Funky 4+1 and Sugar Hill Gang. But when I saw Run DMC and they had the full getup on, black leathers, the hat, and they just look rowdy, you know, and they look like some street dudes, and I had to sit down.
Right.
I was like, what is this? It affected me that much that it wasn't too much longer after that. I think I started our first little hip-hop band, you know, with my brother.
Uh-huh.
You know, we were in high school at the time. But that was that moment, man, Run DMC on Soul Train. I can't remember. I think it was It's Like That or
right.
Song, but it's mind-blowing.
I love asking this question because you get such incredible stories. Run DMC on Soul Train in the 12th grade with a 40 ounce, and this is why Cypress Hill exists in 2016. It's an amazing thing, and further testament to the fact that, you know, like, what you do comes from an incredibly real and kind of authentic place. Let me ask you this. Cypress Hill, I have a theory. You tell me if you think I'm right. I think part of the reason that you have maintained for as long as you have is the fact that really there's no one else like you. Nothing else sounds like you. The combination of your two voices, the way the things that you talk about and the way that you talk about them, there's, you know, lots and lots of imitators in this world that have come and gone. For every musician that has ever been successful has spawned an imitator, but I can't think of a single thing that has ever sounded like Cypress Hill. I just find you to be unique, and you didn't sound like anything else at the time either as well. Yeah,
that's for sure. At that time, we knew that we couldn't, I mean, we were, you know, gangbanger kids from California, but we knew that we couldn't do the gangster rap thing. You know, DJ Muggs, he wasn't even trying to go that route. You know, we were trying to find what's going to be our thing that could set us apart. And we knew that our sound had to be different than everybody else's too, because everything was gangster rap. So when Muggs started putting music together, it didn't have like a LA feel. I don't even think it had a New York feel. It just had its own feel. And then when we stumbled across, B Real's vocal approach, and then the third part was I came in when we call the psycho beta voice, which is the "I want to just kill a man," that voice.
Yeah, like people say that Lennon and McCartney's voices sounded great together in the Beatles. I think the same thing with Cypress Hill. Like the combination of your voices was something that was undescribable.
Yeah, and those are things that just happen along the way, man. I think, when we first started out, we didn't have that third voice. It was B-Real's voice and my regular voice, and one day we were imitating Public Enemy on the block, and B-Real was rapping Chuck D's parts, and I was doing the Flavor Flav parts. But I just started throwing it in that deep voice, so. We eventually used that one voice. We used it in one line of a song called Trigger Happy.
Uh-huh.
And that one line was, "How here's something you can't understand, how I could just kill a man."
Uh-huh.
And when Muggs heard that line, he just scrapped the whole song and said, "Okay, this is your chorus now."
Right.
And the whole funky field nasal thing and the psycho beta growl was just born that instantly, just like that.
Albert Einstein once said that his genius was a result of having a little bit of time on his hands and kind of messing around. I find it's incredible that you guys stumbled across your sound doing a Public Enemy impersonation. Like, it's that's it, man. Have you ever told this story before?
We told it to Chuck D.
So wait, me and Chuck D are the only people that know this. This is one of the best days of my life. Thank you.
Yeah, man. It's that's how naturally it just came across us being fans of other artists, and just rapping along with their stuff, Like you say, you never know who's going to influence, and Public Enemy was that influential group. And if you ask B-Real the same question, who's your favorite hip-hop band of all time, and he'll tell you the same thing I'm going to tell you is Public Enemy.
And case in point, like Chuck D was a guy who didn't really want to be a rapper. I think Rick Rubin heard him on the radio and said, "You have the most incredible voice ever. You got to do something with that." And from that he was born, and from that you were born. That's unbelievable. That's amazing. I want to change gears just a little bit, and you can talk about this stuff or not, depending on how you feel. But you are unique. You come from a unique background, and we are living in some unique times as we approach the election in a couple of months. How are you feeling? Because not only are you here in America with a perspective that a lot of people don't have, but you've also seen the rest of the world pretty much every year on tour for the last 20 years. So you have an idea of how we stack up compared to the rest of the globe. How are you feeling going into this election?
Dude, I can't. I can only answer that one way. I'm nervous, man. I've never seen the presidential race become such a joke ever in my whole years that I've been living in America.
Uh-huh.
It's always been a very serious thing, and it's kind of taken on this Jerry Springer show quality type thing, and I'm just like, right now, like, who is the more serious politician here is the final question that I'm asking myself. Who has the most experience, with global tactics and global policies, and presenting themselves to other world leaders in a manner that is going to make other world leaders say, yes, I'm going to get behind this person. And that's basically where I'm at, and that'll decide, my vote.
Right. No, it's very interesting. And I find so many musicians like you that have kind of been around the world a bazillion times. You do have like a different and somewhat more enlightened perspective about America and where it's headed. Like, I know so many people that have hit the road and gone, wow, yeah, things might be messed up in America, but spend some time in some other countries. You're going to appreciate what we've got here a lot more, and you're going to approach everything differently.
Yeah, I feel that same way too, man. I feel that same way too. That's why I'm very cautious of, like, who's going to get my vote. You know what I mean? Because I've been to countries where, I've seen, less than what the poverty level is here in this country. It's way lower in other countries, and I'm not gonna throw no names out there, but I've seen things that would make, a project housing in the United States, look like a luxury resort in other place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is. That's very true. You know what I mean? So, I'm very proud to live in this country, and I think that we should all be as proud as we can over who's going to lead our country. So the decision has to be a well thought out one.
Take some time and think about what's important to you before you vote. Thank you for taking some time to talk about a little bit of politics, because some people are afraid of it, but I'm always curious to know what people think and why they think that, especially when it comes to people that have traveled the world. And I can tell you one thing, in a day and age where things are so firmly up in the air, where people are nervous the way you said, there's almost nothing better to take you out of your fears for the future of the country than going to see a show like a Cypress Hill show. If there's something that's going to help you escape from everything that plagues you for an hour, it's a Cypress Hill show for sure.
Hey, man, it helps me escape, dude. So, I hope it does the same for somebody else as well.
Well, I'm sure it'll do the same thing for all of us. We've taken up a lot more of your time than I think we were supposed to, but I thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sendog.
My man, thank you for the kind words.
There is something you can't understand. There is something you can't understand.
no time clowning around my gas, humming. Coming at ya. Sorry that I had to get ya. Time for some action.